Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about a car that shouldn't make any sense today, but somehow does. The Ford Anglia 105e, a small, economical British car from 1959 with an inverted rear window and almost the same power as a lawnmower. Even so, nowadays, people are paying a lot for these cars, and not everyone is a Harry Potter fan. So, what's going on? Let's delve into the fascinating story of the strangest Ford that suddenly everyone wants. Section 1. The birth of something strange. 1959. Let's set the scene. It's 1959. Eisenhower is in the White House, rock and roll is still scandalizing parents, and the space race is heating up. Over in Britain, Ford is about to unveil something completely different at the Earl's Court Motor Show in London. The previous Anglia, the 100e, was about as exciting as watching paint dry. It had a side valve engine left over from before World War II, a 3-speed gearbox, and vacuum-powered windshield wipers that would slow down when you accelerated. Seriously, Ford knew they needed something revolutionary. Enter Elwood Engel, an American designer who just lost out on designing the Ford Thunderbird to John Oros. Ford shipped him off to England, and what he created was nothing short of bizarre by British standards. He essentially scaled down a 1957 Thunderbird and gave it one of the most distinctive rear ends in automotive history. That reverse-slanting rear window wasn't just for looks. Engel had actually tested the design in Ford's wind tunnel at their Birmingham R&D center. The backward rake improved aerodynamics and kept rain off the glass, meaning you didn't need a rear wiper. Pretty clever engineering disguised as styling weirdness. The front end borrowed those distinctive eyebrow ridges over the headlights from the Thunderbird, and the whole car had subtle tail fins that gave it an American flair. But this wasn't some scaled-up Detroit cruiser. The Anglia rode on a 90-inch wheelbase and weighed just 1,640 pounds, less than most modern motorcycles. Section 2. The engine that changed everything. Here's where it gets interesting. Under that American-styled hood sat an all-new 997cc engine that Ford called the Kent. This little four-cylinder was a revelation. While the old side valve wheezed out power at low RPMs, this new overhead valve design was what engineers call over-square, meaning the cylinder bore was wider than the piston stroke. The numbers were 80.996 mm bore by 48.4 mm stroke. What that meant in practical terms was that this engine loved to rev. It produced 39 horsepower, which doesn't sound like much until you remember the car weighed less than 800 kilograms. The real news was the 4-speed gearbox, Ford's first in a production car. British drivers had gotten used to 3-speed transmissions, so this was a genuine upgrade. The Kent engine would go on to become legendary. It powered everything from the Cortina to Formula Ford race cars and remained in production in various forms well into the 2000s. Over 40 years of service from a design that started life in this quirky little sedan. Section 3. Commercial success. The numbers don't lie. When the Anglia launched, Ford offered two versions, the Standard and the Deluxe. The Standard was stripped down, no glove box lid, no passenger sun visor, no temperature gauge, minimal chrome. It was transportation, period. The Deluxe, though, had all the chrome trim, opening rear quarter windows, optional two-tone paint, and even a heater as standard equipment. Initially, there was also a 4-door version called the Prefect 107e, which basically took the old 100e body and stuffed the new 105e running gear underneath. It was for buyers who couldn't quite embrace the Anglia's wild styling but wanted the modern mechanicals. In 1960, the first full calendar year of production, Ford sold over 191,000 Anglias. That set a production record for Ford of Britain. The car proved so popular that Ford had to move production from their Dagenham plant to a brand new, highly automated facility in Halewood, near Liverpool, in 1963. By the time production ended in November 1967, Ford had built over 1,105,000 and 123,000 Anglias. Think about that, 1 million units of a car that looked like nothing else on the road. The British buying public had embraced Engle's strange creation. Section 4. The Performance Story. Unexpected Capability. In October 1962, something remarkable happened at the Montlhéry Autodrome near Paris. 24-year-old twin brothers Tony and Michael Brooks, along with a group of friends, took a stock Anglia 105E fitted with Ford's 13-pound performance kit and proceeded to capture 6 International Class G world records. They averaged 83.47 miles per hour. Remember, this is a 39-horsepower economy car for 4, 5, 6, and 7 days and nights straight, covering 15,000 and 20,000 kilometers. The only maintenance required was tire changes. The little Anglia's strength and durability impressed everyone. That same year, Ford introduced the Anglia Super, designated the 123E. It featured a larger displacement 1,000cc version of the Kent engine, producing 48.5 horsepower, an all-synchromesh 4-speed gearbox, bigger brakes, improved interior trim, and distinctive two-tone paintwork with contrasting side stripes. Top speed jumped to 84 miles per hour, genuinely quick for a small car in 1962. The 123E would prove particularly popular in South Africa, where sales took off in 1966. Production actually continued there longer than anywhere else, with cars being built alongside the Escort until at least the end of 1968. Section 5. Racing Heritage from Circuits to Drag Strips. Here's where the Anglia story takes an unexpected turn that Americans need to understand. In Britain, the 105E became a giant killer in motorsports. The most famous example was the 1966 British Saloon Car Championship, where John Fitzpatrick drove a 997cc 105E to victory in both the under 1,000cc class and the overall driver's title. He beat cars with much more power simply through superior handling and reliability. But across the Atlantic, something even wilder was happening. American drag racers discovered the earlier 1948-1953 Anglia, a different, even smaller car, and turned it into a legend. Ford had imported about 25,000 of those earlier Anglias to North America between 1948 and 1953, marketing them through select Ford dealers. American buyers weren't impressed. They wanted chrome, comfort, and V8 power, none of which the little British Ford offered. By the early 1960s, you could pick up a used Anglia for less than $100. Wrecking yards would crush them by the dozens because nobody wanted them. Then drag racers realized something. These cars were absurdly light, around 1,665 pounds in stock form, with a 90-inch wheelbase that put them right at the minimum for certain racing classes. The formula was simple. Pull out the tiny British 4-cylinder, stuff in the biggest American V8 you could find, and hang on. These became known as gassers, and they were absolutely bonkers. The short wheelbase and tall stance meant Anglias would do massive wheel stands off the line, and their brick-like aerodynamics meant they'd get squirrely at speed. They were wildly unpredictable and incredibly entertaining to watch. Famous Anglia gassers included the Kohler brothers' King Kong, powered by a supercharged big block Chevy, Bob Pinella's Anglia, campaigned by Ken Dondero, and Johnny Loper's Little Hoss. When NHRA changed the rules in 1963 to allow foreign cars under the 94-inch wheelbase minimum to compete in gas classes, albeit with restrictions on engine size and no superchargers, the number of Anglia gassers exploded. These cars became drag racing icons. The wild nose-up launches, the sound of American V8s in tiny British bodies, the sheer audacity of the whole thing. It captured the imagination of drag racing fans. And here's the important part. If it weren't for hot rodders adopting these cars in the 1960s, most of the early Anglias would have been crushed. The racing community literally saved the model from extinction. Section 6. The pop culture explosion. Now we have to talk about the elephant, or rather, the flying car, in the room. In 2002, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets hit theaters, and the Weasley family's enchanted Ford Anglia became one of the most memorable cars in movie history. The car used in the films was a 1962 Ford Anglia 105e Deluxe, painted in turquoise and white. The production actually used 16 different Anglias for various scenes, some rigged to appear to fly, others set up for interior shots, and some deliberately beaten up to look like they'd been living in the Forbidden Forest. J.K. Rowling's choice of the Anglia wasn't random. When she was in secondary school, her friend Sean Harris owned a turquoise and white Ford Anglia. She later recalled that some of her happiest teenage memories involved driving around in Sean's car, which represented freedom from having to ask her father for rides in rural England. When she wrote Chamber of Secrets, choosing the Anglia was a way of honoring those memories. The effect on the classic car market was immediate and profound. Suddenly, a car that had been considered an affordable entry into classic car ownership was commanding serious money. One of the movie cars reportedly sold to singer Liam Payne for a six-figure sum. In 2005, one of the prop cars was stolen from a film studio in Cornwall and later found abandoned at an ancient Scottish castle, a prank seemingly lifted straight from the movie itself. Section 7. The market today. Why everyone wants one. So here we are in 2024, and the Anglia 105e has transformed from an affordable classic into a genuinely desirable collector car. Recent auction results show good examples selling for $10,000 to $13,000 in the UK, with the best cars approaching $20,000. That's roughly $12,500 to $16,000 for nice ones, and up to $25,000 for the absolute cream. In the United States, where Anglias are rarer, prices run even higher. You might find a project car for around $25,900, but excellent examples can command upward of $50,000, especially if they have period racing history. There are several factors driving this surge. First, the Harry Potter effect continues to bring younger buyers into the market, people who grew up with the movies and now have disposable income. Second, baby boomers who remember these cars from their youth, either in Britain or on American drag strips, are buying them as nostalgia pieces. Third, and this might be the most important factor, the 105e represents something increasingly rare in the classic car world: genuine character without astronomical cost. You can still find decent examples for less than the price of a new economy car, and everything is relatively simple to work on. Parts availability is excellent, thanks to a strong owners club network and specialist suppliers. The driving experience is also charming in a way modern cars simply cannot replicate. The Kent engine loves to be revved. The 4-speed gearbox has that mechanical precision that's been lost in modern transmissions, and at 1,640 pounds, the car feels genuinely nimble. It's not fast by modern standards. 60 miles per hour takes about 27 seconds, but it's engaging in a way that modern performance cars, with their electronic nannies and artificial engine sounds, aren't. Section 8. The variants worth knowing. If you're seriously considering an Anglia, here are the versions you'll encounter. The standard is the most basic, with minimal chrome and sparse interior. It's rare today because most buyers originally opted for the better-equipped Deluxe. The Deluxe adds full-width chrome grille, side trim, chrome rear lamp units, opening rear quarter windows, and a more complete interior. This is the most common variant, and typically what you see in The UK. The Anglia Super 123E, introduced in 1962, is the performance variant with the 1000-cc engine, all synchromesh gearbox, improved brakes, two-tone paint, and plusher interior. These command a slight premium but aren't significantly more valuable than deluxe models. There's also the estate version, introduced in 1961, which offered more cargo space for families. These are less common, but can be practical if you actually plan to use the car. Finally, there's the Thames van variant, designated 307E and 309E, which shared the 105E's running gear but had a commercial body. About 205,000 vans were produced before the Thames name was dropped in favor of Ford branding in 1965. One oddity worth mentioning: Ford of Italy created the Anglia Torino for the European market, which dispensed with the reverse rake rear window in favor of a conventional design. It looked more like a contemporary Vauxhall Viva and was sold primarily on the continent. Section 9. What to watch out for. If you're shopping for an Anglia 105E, rust is the primary concern. These are unibody cars from the early 1960s, built in rainy Britain, and corrosion has killed most examples. The real danger is that seemingly mint cars can be rotten underneath fresh paint. Check the floor pans thoroughly, along with the sills, rear spring hangers, and jacking points. The chassis number is stamped into the right-hand strut tower, which is itself a common rot spot. Many cars have had repairs in this area, so examine the quality of any welding carefully. Front wings are available as reproductions, but cost over $1,000 each. Inner wings are even more expensive. If you find a car that needs extensive metalwork, the costs can quickly exceed the car's value. Mechanically, the Kent engine is nearly bulletproof. Worn carburetors are the most common cause of poor starting and running, but all parts remain available. Check for worn steering, leaking front McPherson struts, seized brake cylinders, and worn suspension bushes. Upgrades to the braking system are common and actually desirable. The gearbox can develop worn synchros on first gear in 1,200cc cars and on second gear in all versions. Listen for whining or jumping out of second gear. A bearing noise that disappears when you depress the clutch indicates gearbox issues. Many Anglias have been modified over the years with larger Ford engines. 1,500cc conversions are common, and V8 swaps are not unheard of. While these can be exciting, they may have stressed the original structure. Since the Harry Potter franchise boosted values of stock cars, some modified examples have been converted back to original specification, though not always well. Section 10. Why this matters. The Anglia 105E represents something important in automotive history. It was Ford's bold bet on modern design and engineering at a time when British cars were becoming increasingly antiquated. It proved that buyers would embrace radical styling if it came with genuine substance. Underneath, the car also demonstrates how cultural touchstones can preserve automotive heritage. Without Harry Potter, would the Anglia be as valued today? Probably not. Would it exist at all without drag racers adopting the earlier models in the 1960s? Definitely not. For American enthusiasts, the Anglia offers an entry point into British motoring history that's more accessible than an MG or Triumph sports car. The racing heritage, both circuit racing in the UK and drag racing in the United States, means these cars have legitimate performance credentials despite their economy car origins. The timing is also interesting. As classic car values have climbed into the stratosphere, the Anglia remains relatively affordable. You can own a piece of 1960s automotive history with genuine character and surprising capability for less than a new mid-size sedan. That value proposition won't last forever. Section 11. The future of the Anglia. Looking ahead, several factors suggest the Anglia 105E will continue appreciating. Production numbers were high, over 1 million cars, but survival rates are low due to rust and hard lives as economy transportation. Genuine, well-preserved examples are becoming increasingly rare. The car also benefits from being part of multiple collector communities: British classic car enthusiasts, Ford collectors, drag racing historians, and Harry Potter fans. That broad appeal provides support for values even if one segment of the market cools. The active owners club scene means expertise and parts availability should remain strong for the foreseeable future. The 105e Owners Club has been instrumental in preserving knowledge about these cars and maintaining a supply of reproduction parts. This infrastructure is crucial for the model's long-term viability as a collector car. From a driving perspective, the Anglia occupies a sweet spot of being old enough to feel genuinely vintage, but modern enough to be usable. The overhead valve Kent engine and 4-speed gearbox mean it can keep up with modern traffic, at least in town. The relatively simple mechanics mean maintenance doesn't require specialized knowledge or expensive specialists. So why has the 105e Ford Anglia become the weirdest car everyone suddenly wants? It's a combination of factors that probably couldn't be replicated. Distinctly odd styling that's aged into iconic status, genuine engineering innovation in the Kent engine, surprising racing success both in Britain and America, cultural immortality through the Harry Potter franchise, and increasing rarity as rust claims more examples every year. For anyone who grew up in the 1960s, whether in Britain or watching drag races in California, the Anglia represents accessible nostalgia. For younger enthusiasts, it's a quirky piece of automotive history that's still affordable compared to other classics. For everyone, it's a reminder that great cars don't have to be exotic or expensive. Sometimes they're just well-engineered economy cars with backwards rear windows and outsized personality. The Anglia proved that Ford could take risks and succeed, that American and British engineering could combine into something greater than the sum of its parts, and that even the most unlikely cars can become legends with the right combination of capability, timing, and cultural relevance. If you've ever owned an Anglia 105e or even seen one in person, I'd love to hear about your experience in the comments below. Did you grow up riding in one? Did you build one for racing? Did Harry Potter introduce you to these cars? Whatever your connection, share your story. Building this community is what it's all about. And if you enjoyed diving deep into the history of this quirky British Ford, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. We're always exploring forgotten classics and uncovering the stories behind cars that shaped automotive history. There's always something interesting just around the corner. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.